Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Unit 1.2 Notes, Part 1. Today we're talking about solving one-step linear equations. Our learning target today is to be able to solve one-step linear equations by using, that's right, inverse operations. So, what are inverse operations? What do you guys think? Well, what it is it's an operation that cancels another operation. So it's an operation that cancels another operation. Well, what that means is, say addition. If I have addition and I want to get rid of it, well, I would use subtraction. And if I had subtraction and I wanted to get rid of it, I would use addition. Now, the other main one that we're going to be talking about today is if you have multiplication, okay? If you have multiplication, the way to get rid of that is with division. And if I have division and I want to get rid of it, I would use multiplication. Okay? And now the other thing that we're going to be doing today is we're going to solve. Okay? And solve is that's when to use inverse operations. So we're going to use those inverse operations to find the solution of an equation. Okay, so inverse operations cancel each other out. And then solve is when we use those inverse operations to find the solution of an equation. Now, before we talk about order of operations, the parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction, that's what we do when we have an expression, okay? But when we're talking about inverse operations, we talk about SADMAP, okay? And that's the order of operations backwards, okay? So we use SADMAP when there's an equal sign. Okay? And it's very important to know if you have to use the PEMDAS, the Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, or SADMAP. Okay? And we call it SADMAP because you don't really Sally, Aunt, Dear, My, Excuse, Please. That just sounds ridiculous. All right, so let's take a look at this. Now, the directions are saying that we need to identify the operation demonstrated in the equation and then identify the inverse, okay? So, oh, mine looks a little weird. So when we were doing this, or I don't know if you've been taught, but wherever the equal sign is, we kind of draw the line to see the two different halves of the equation, okay? And wherever the variable is, that's telling us what the operation is, okay? So right there, the operation, well, what's going on? Well, it's addition because we are adding 8. So the inverse of that, the opposite, would be subtraction. Let's look at 2. All right, I'm going to draw the line down the middle. And what operation do we have there? With the variable. Well, with the variable, we have subtraction. And this is where we don't do the keep change thing, because if you're doing keep change, you're like, am I adding that 6? Am I subtracting that 6? Well, no, it's subtraction, okay? And the inverse of subtraction is addition. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, we're going to draw our line down the middle. There's our variable. What operation is that right there? We said that the bar, the fraction bar, yeah, that's division. Okay, and the inverse of division is, that's right, multiplication. Four. When there's a number and a variable next to each other, what does that mean? It means multiplication. And to get rid of multiplication, we are going to, that's right, we're going to use division. We're going to divide. All right, now number 5, I want you to put a big star next to it. Okay, very, very important. What's going on there? What operation is that? Well, it's multiplying, but what are we multiplying? Okay, we're multiplying by a fraction. Okay, and when we're multiplying by a fraction, we want to cancel it. And the only way to cancel it is if we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so when we're solving, we'll talk more about it, but we have to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, let's move on down. Okay, 6 through 11, let's read the directions again. We have to identify the operation needed to solve for the given variable. And then right there it says, do not solve the equation. So we're not solving anything yet. We just need to say, how do we get rid of it? All right, so number 6, it's negative 3n equals negative 48. Well, what's going on with the negative 3 and the n? Okay, if you want to draw the line down the middle so you can see, well, right there, that's multiplication. So how do we get rid of multiplication? Well, we get rid of it by division, okay? And what would we divide by? Oh, I'm actually going to write divide, because we're going to divide by a negative 3, okay? When we're canceling multiplication or division, we don't change that sign. That stays in negative 3. All right, let's move on to 7. How do we solve for m? How do we get the m by itself? Well, right there, we're subtracting 4. So instead of subtracting 4, we would add 4. And once again, that's why we don't do keep, change here, because we would get mixed up with all of those signs. Okay, let's keep it simple. All right, 8. Drawing the line down the center so I can see the 2 halves. What do we do? Do we multiply by the reciprocal? Now, just because there's a fraction there doesn't mean we multiply, okay? That is a positive 1/2, and there's no addition or multiplication or division going there, okay? So to get that 1/2 to the other side, to get the x by itself, we would have to do the opposite of addition, which is subtract. So we would have to subtract 1/2. All right, number 9. Where's the variable? How do we get the variable by itself? Okay, we're adding 3 right there, and the inverse of addition is subtraction. So we would subtract 3. Number 10. Find the variable. What's going on to that variable? Well, it's being multiplied by 3/5. And when we multiply by a fraction, that's where we're coming back up to here. When we're multiplying by a fraction, yeah, we multiply by the reciprocal. So what's the reciprocal of 3/5? That's right, it's 5/3. All right, number 11. Why don't you try it by yourself? What's going on to that W? Okay, well, we do multiply, but what do we multiply by? That's right, we multiply by the reciprocal. Now, the reciprocal isn't 3 over 2, it's a negative 3 over 2. Once again, we don't change the sign when we multiply or divide. If it's a negative, we have to multiply by a negative. Okay, now a review of rounding. When we are rounding, we're going to be rounding to the nearest hundredth, okay? And if you don't know, that is the second decimal. I don't know what your other teachers have taught you or not, but we've really liked this phrase. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. Okay? So when we're doing this, let's zoom in and take a look at number 12. We're going to underline our 2 decimals, and we need to look at the 2. Is it 5 or more? No, it's 4 or less. So if it's 4 or less, we are going to let it rest. So we rounded, so we need to change our symbol. That's approximately. And we said let it rest, so it's going to be 3.45. All right, so 13. Those are our 2 decimals. We look at the 6. Is it 5 or more? Yeah, 5 or more, so we have to raise the score. It's not going to be a 24, it's going to be a 20, good, 25. All right, and 14. Is it 5 or more? Yes, so that 99, it's not going to be 99 anymore, it's going to be 100, which actually changes that to a 12. Okay? So 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, we let it rest. All right, let's flip it to the back. The back, we're actually going to be solving. Okay? So let's read the directions. It says solve the following equations. Give an exact answer, which means no decimals, and reduce the fractions. Okay, so I'm going to draw the line down the middle. Where's my variable? Yeah, there it is. What's going on to our variable? Well, that's a -7. That's a -7. To get rid of a negative, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. Okay, and you guys have your calculators right now, okay? I'm going to take mine out. We just got to hold on a sec. Okay, so I've got my calculator out. We had -6, and we are adding 7. Now, some of you might know it right off the top of your head. Some of you need the calculator. That's fine. Okay, so -6 plus 7, we get, that's right, a +1. So x equals 1. Since that is my final answer, I'm going to circle it, put a box around it, and then I like to highlight my answers. Number 16. Where's the x? Well, what's going on to that x right now? Well, that -8 is multiplying. And to get rid of multiplication, we have to divide. We're going to divide, so those cancel out. And we get x equals, well, let's just do it in our calculator, right? 4 divided by -8. Ugh. Didn't the directions say no decimals? Okay, so to change that from a decimal to a fraction, I'm going to hit the math button, fraction, and there we go. It tells me what that is as a fraction, so it's a -1/2. Now, some of you guys might have been like, oh, 4 over -8, I can reduce that. That's great. However you want to solve it, as long as you get the right answer. All right, number 17. 17. Find your variable. What operation is going on? Well, right now it's being divided by 4. The opposite of division, the inverse of dividing by 4, is multiply by 4. Okay, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. 4 times 10 is 40. So 40 equals W. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you write 40 equals W or W equals 40. Those are the exact same thing. Okay, number 18. Number 18, we have negative 2/3 y equals 8. So I'm going to draw the line down. I'm going to find where my variable is. Now I'm multiplying by a fraction, and to get rid of multiplication by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by, that's right, the reciprocal. It's going to be a negative 3/2 to both sides. Okay, so everything on the left side cancels out. We're left with y equals, I'm going to go to my calculator. I have 8 times, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, negative 3/2. Okay, so we get negative 12. So y equals negative 12. Okay, even when we're working with decimals, guys, it's the same thing. Don't get scared. I'm going to find my variable, and I want to do the inverse operation. Well, that's subtraction. The inverse of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 3.8 to both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. You can't change it. Okay? So I have negative 1.5, and I'm adding 3.8. And we get 2.3. Now, if you guys are having trouble using the graphing calculator, I am making basic graphing calculator 101 videos that are going to be up on the website. Okay? All right, 20. Well, it's a fraction, so I multiply by the reciprocal, right? Okay. Look at the variable and then see what is the operation. That's addition. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. I'm going to subtract 1/3 to both sides. Now, if you're really good with fractions, you can solve it that way. That's fine. All right, but I'm going to show you how to use it, solve it in your calculator. Anytime you're working with fractions, we're going to put them inside parentheses, and we have 7/3 minus 1/3. All right, and then we get our answer of 2. Now, off to the side, for those of you who want to do it without a calculator, I'm going to show you how real quick. It's already we have an LCD, it's the same denominator, so we just subtract across. That's 6/3, and 6/3, if we reduce that, we get 2. Okay? Okay, so that was the first part, and now the last one. It says solve the following. So once again, we are solving, but now the directions ask us to round our answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay? And remember, whenever we're rounding, that means we have to change our symbol. It's not going to be equal anymore. Okay? So, number 21, draw the line. What operation do we have? Yeah, that's division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4.2. So I have 8.01 times 4.2. and we get 33.642. So I'm going to write that. 33.642 equals W. However, they want us to round. So I need to look at the 2. 5 or more raise the score, 4 or less. That's right, we let it rest. So 33.64 is what our answer should be. All right, 22. Find your variable. We are subtracting, so the opposite of subtraction, the inverse, is addition. So we're going to add that to both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay, so be very careful on your calculator. Negative 11.986. And we are adding that to 3.745. Okay, and then we get negative 8.241. Okay, and once again, we want to round. Since it's a 1, we let it rest, and that stays as a negative 8.24. All right, 23 and 24, you guys are all on your own. Why don't you pause the video and see if you can solve those all by yourself. Good luck. Okay, and there you go. Now, if you have any questions or you need any extra help, please let Ms. Carranza or myself know. It is our job to help you. If you still need help with the graphing calculators, watch the Graphing Calculator 101 videos. Okay, those are really going to help you out. All right, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra 1, or Algebra Unit 1.2 Notes, Part 1. Thanks for watching.